Hey you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hawkins, and along with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how are we doing this week?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Been keeping up with all the all the fun follow-up Switch news we'll be talking about in a little bit because oh boy, has there been some extra information since we last talked.
What? There's been a lot of news since a new console's been revealed and announced, and what?
Yeah,
That's weird.
like okay, I get how that's like, yeah, no doubt, but like I feel like this is a particularly special situation.
Oh, there are definitely certain things that it's just like, yeah, it's very much a one of one type situation. So I totally get it. Totally get it. Yeah, you know, nothing new to report on my end. I still haven't seen the new Captain America movie, and I think this is like kind of like my last week to give it to go see it. I know, like, the reviews were like, it's fine,
Yeah.
that's whatever. But I don't think I have never not seen an MCU movie in theaters. So at this point, I'm just like, nah, I can't break the record. I just got to keep going. I got to keep going.
I gave up on that a minute ago. Not because of MCU in particular. I just like stopped going to theaters as often. I think like since
Oh, I
COVID, that's
love
part of
going to
reset for
theater.
me. I like theaters too, but I hate, you know what it is? I like theaters. I hate people, and I got to learn to time when to go to certain theaters because
That's
it's just like
fair.
I feel like I always draw the short stick on just like there's that guy next to me that's talking or has the flashlight on or has like I seem to have the worst luck with the only time it was good when I had someone talking was when I went to see Green Knight because all the talking was people having no idea what the hell was happening on camera on screen. Like the
Mhm.
sounds of audible confusion. I think that actually
I
helped that
I don't want to get too into the weeds on this, but now I'm curious because I am a theater guy. I'm a big movie guy, so
yeah.
I don't go to the movies remotely as much as I would like to. I still want to see Princess Mononoke. It's in IMAX right now,
Oh yeah.
and I want to go see that. And I just like haven't had the time to do that either. But I was wondering like how I kind of want to like test your inconveniences at a movie theater. So like, say that the movie theater is like like decently packed, right? Like
Sure.
nothing crazy,
Yeah, yeah. Not
but
every seat,
like
but it's not like there's people around me. Yeah.
yeah. So so I'm one of those people where like I'm very particular about where I want to sit.
Yeah.
And I think you didn't see the worst of it when we went to go see The Brutalist at the Vista Theater in LA,
Right.
but like but I want to make sure I get a good view of everything, right? And so I will go into, there was one time I saw a movie, I forgot what it was, but it was last year, and most of the rows were pretty full except for like the back row, which I don't like sitting in the back. I like sitting somewhere like in the center
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah, you want center middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I sit in the back row and I have like a space between me and this other person, and then I sit in the middle. Like I sit in my seat. And this guy like literally looks at me and then just walks down the aisle and to sit farther away from me. And I'm like, there's a gap next to us. Like, you're acting like I'm sitting right next to you in an empty,
Yeah.
like when you're using the restroom, right? And there's just like this huge row of stalls, and you just decide to pee next to the one guy, the one other
Yeah.
guy in the entire. It was not like that, but he made it seem like it was, and I was just like, it just it reminded me of that story about like how I hate people.
Yeah, I mean, I got not bothered by someone just existing around me. The thing is too, most of the times I go to theaters now, I'm going to places where you do like reserve seating. So like I'm intentionally buying like the middle ticket,
Mm,
right? I'm not going to the theater to like hope I get that seat. I'm going because I know I have that seat.
yeah,
um, but like
yeah.
yeah, like people like just people existing around me, that's fine. It's just more of like I've had enough times where it's like the wrong people are around me, where it's just like, dude, like I don't even like why are you here? Why are you watching? Like why are you? Why did you pay this? Like theaters are so expensive now. Why did you throw down this much coin to then not watch the movie and just be like, max screen brightness on your phone and having
Yeah.
the tap sound on your texting still for some goddamn reason? Like
yeah, the worst of it, and like I understand. Well, okay, I'm not gonna say I understand, but I believe I can sympathize on like having an infant child. But like you should not be taking an infant child to a movie theater. Like you should not. And you'd be surprised the amount of like midnight showings you go to,
Oh yeah.
or like late night or like night of
Oh no,
showings.
I've been
And
around
there's
that.
like an infant
Yeah,
and it
and
starts
like
crying. I'm like, listen, I know that babysitting and like childcare is expensive is it's a lot. But that doesn't give you the pass. This is the societal pass to
yeah.
bring your crying kid to a movie theater.
Yeah, like I
Anyway,
get it if it's like a family movie and they bring the family, like it's like there's
yes,
like three
that's
kids with
different.
them, whatever. Like sure, fine. Like that's on me for seeing like Mario movie in theaters. Like that's just gonna happen. Like that's there
On
you go.
opening weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, like
100%.
that's
Like that's just like that's
yeah,
on you
you
at
know
the
what
end
you're
of the
getting
day.
into.
Yeah,
You know what you're
exactly.
getting into.
But yeah, when it's like a midnight release for like not even a remotely family movie, right? Like not even like an MCU like fun for the whole family, like straight up like oh like if we went to Brutalist and someone had an infant child with them, it's like what are y'all doing right now?
That would be such an insane movie to take a child to. Um, but anyway, we're
Anyway,
gonna get into the newly released Switch 2 news. But before we do that, we're gonna go through some housekeeping. If you've been enjoying the show, please give us a 5-star rating, whether it be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, uh, wherever you listen to this podcast. It'd be really appreciated. Um, if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, Party Chat: a JRPG podcast. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching this on a video platform. We really appreciate it. It helps with exposure. And again, we've been in a nice steady increase of subscribers the past 3 to 4 weeks, which makes me very happy. Um, but if you want to support us financially on Patreon, we have some pay tiers where you get some additional goodies, whether it be like getting the episode a day early, getting access to our monthly Q&A, where you can ask us a bunch of questions and we just sit down and yap for a couple of hours. Um, and then Campfire Catalog, which is our book club podcast. We just released our episode on Chrono Trigger, and the next game is The Legend of Dragoon. So we've a bunch of us have already like started talking about our experience with The Legend of Dragoon so far, and it's cool to play video games.
oh yeah.
And lastly, go to youtube.com/Kevin Kenson and give Kevin a subscription. He's already released a lot of videos regarding the Switch 2. It's his time to shine. Go over there, give him a sub, and he's living his best life right now.
Trying to.
Are you living your best life right now? Yeah, that's
Well,
like yeah, no,
you
like
know,
you're in your.
working
I would
towards
say
it.
you're in your prime right now.
I'm working towards my best life right now. Yes, we'll leave it at that. Um,
Okay, but yeah, so we're gonna get into the news for the week, and
yes.
kind of similarly to last week, there is going to be a topic of the show. We might talk a little bit about what we've been playing. I haven't played a whole lot. I don't know what Kevin's been up to. But this is mainly going to be like Kevin taking the reins again, talking about a lot of the new Switch 2 news, and then we'll talk about like some quick snippets that are unrelated at the end. Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, so since we last talked, because the last time we talked about Switch 2 here on the podcast was the day of. Like there was, all the
Yes.
stuff that came out that morning. We learned a few things afterwards. We recorded. Great. A lot developed since then. Um, a lot of it not great. I want to tackle the big elephant in the room right away, which is the pre-order delay and tariffs. So on our last podcast, we talked about how pre-orders for the Switch 2 in the US would start on April 9th, a week after the uh, Switch 2 event or whatever. That is not what happened. Or April 9th, April 10th? I can't even remember. Doesn't matter because it's not the pre-order date anymore. Basically, after the Switch 2 Direct, we had the announcement of what new tariffs were going to be coming up from the US government and how they'd be applied to different countries. And turns out the ones they announced have some pretty heavy impacts on Nintendo's plans for the Switch 2. And so they have announced that they are delaying the pre-order date for the US. We do not have a hard release. We don't have a hard date just yet. There was like a general date that went up of like early May, but I don't think that's actually been hard solidified. And not only that, but at first we thought it was the US only. And as of the morning of us recording this, it got confirmed that Canada also has now had their pre-orders delayed. So the pre-order delay on its own sucks. The bigger headache is the potential price increase. The Switch 2, like we reported last week, was originally going to be listed at $450 for the system by itself, $500 to get a bundle with Mario Kart World, and that may change. We don't have hard confirmation just on this just yet, but they didn't delay the pre-order for no reason. There is Nintendo kind of taking stock of the situation, and one of the potential outcomes could be them charging more for this console. There's been all kinds of fun speculation across the web of how much they could jack it up by, different debates of would you still buy it at X amount of dollars? I've seen people throw out numbers as high as $700, which I don't think is going to go that high. People have also, a lot of people are trying to say it'll jump up to like 600 because that's roughly what the tariff cost is, which I don't think that's entirely the case either. I mean, first off, that's a rough estimate of what Nintendo's actually losing out on these systems due to the tariff. But there is also the idea that despite the fact in interviews Nintendo's been saying otherwise, there is some assumption that like the original $450 price tag was put into an account some degree of tariff. Not the amount they ended up getting hit with, but some degree. I guess just to get into the weeds a little bit with this. So the main problem is the tariff that's hitting Vietnam. Not because Nintendo's based there, obviously they're in Japan, but Switch manufacturing is in Vietnam. This was a specific move they did to try and dodge some tariffs impacting China themselves. And it's not working out right now. I mean, it's better than the tariff hitting China, but in Vietnam's case, it's going to be 46%, almost 50%. So that's a big hit. And while we don't know the actual hard value of a Switch 2, we know what they retail it for, but that's not the same thing as value. Based on like the Japan exclusive edition and that kind of stuff, you can kind of ballpark it as like somewhere between 3 and 350. So 46% of 300, even on the low end, that's like $140 that they just now have to account for. That's a big shift. And there's a lot of reactions to this. Some people think Nintendo should just flat out eat the cost, and they're angry at any kind of concept of the price going up. Some people are saying that this is entirely Nintendo's fault somehow. It's a whole mess of a conversation at the moment. But the main thing, honestly, is that we're all just kind of holding our breath right now, waiting to see what Nintendo does. There was this kind of slight glimmer of hope where the Vietnamese government was talking about having talks and dialogue in order to not have that tariff go into effect, and the U.S. rejected that that deal. So there went that hope. Always the chance of other ones could come up, but as of right now, it looks like that 46% tariff is going to affect, and Nintendo has to figure that out. Cam, just to kind of because I've been rambling here for a little bit. What do you think from like a consumer standpoint, from like you going out to buy a Switch standpoint? Where's the cutoff of like, no, man, I can't, like, what? Like if we hit like 550, sure, that's $100 increase. If we hit like 6, is that just like nope?
I think it's complicated at this point because
Oh, yeah.
I'm not in the immediate need to get a Switch 2. Because the Switch is backwards compatible.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that there are definitely certain games that we know that exist that are going to get that Switch 2 editions, or like a Switch 2 version that like I originally was going to get like the Switch version for, like the new Rideout remastered, right? Like
Yeah.
that's gonna be on Switch 2. That it seemingly is not going to be a game key card title. And normally with the games I'm excited about, if possible, I double dip. I double dip on Xbox and I double dip on Switch. Um, And so like I will probably play this on my first time on my Xbox, but I would also really love a physical Switch version that in the future, like if I want to do a replay, it's like okay, like you know, I can play this on my Switch. So like if I do really want that game, I can pick it up and then once I inevitably get a Switch 2, then bada bing, bada boom, I have it. Uh, because I think that even if I wasn't like in the kind of financial constraints that I'm currently in, I don't even like 450 was asking a lot for me.
Sure.
It was something that like I was going to do, but if it goes up to like 500 or like, you know, I think once it hits 500, anything higher than that, I I realistically just like can't do it. I can't justify even now, like even if I do get like am down with like the $500 price tag, I'm not getting it day one. I don't
Sure.
have because we have PAX coming up. I'm going to PAX, Kevin isn't, but like or like I'm trying to go to PAX, but again with like just how my normal life situation is, um I have to make that extra money to make that trip work for me. Because there's some other things in that like financial stuff that I gotta take care of, and there's SGF, which we like, which I am flying down to. I also need a hotel room for um those type of things that like the Switch 2 coming out in June, in the beginning of June, is just like kind of the worst case scenario for a multitude of reasons that yeah, I think at this point I've kind of come to the conclusion that even if it stays at the 450, probably won't get a Switch 2 for at least another month or two after. And it seems like a lot of people are like kind of protesting the that price as it is, right? Like I don't know if you have this in your notes, but like there was like the Treehouse Live and both days it would like the chat was just
Lower the price. Lower the
spamming
price. Lower the
drop the
price.
price, drop the
Yeah.
price, drop the price. And so and I think and for me, I think that's a little extreme, but I understand where they're coming from. Um and I don't know, but I'm in a place right now where there's really no major need for me to get a Switch 2 at launch. Because even with the first party titles, like, yeah, there's Mario Kart and then Donkey Kong the next day, but I also know myself and I like know that like I'm not going to majorly prioritize those games unless we got like offered a review code for it
Sure.
and things like that. Um, that I'm probably going to be okay until like the fall to just hold off and buy it then.
Yeah, and I think that touches on a really important aspect of this too, is that while there is that segment of people who are just mad about the price because they're mad about the price, there are a lot of people where the reality is that they're just getting priced out. It's kind of this bad combination of like the system is more expensive because of what's been happening with world economics, and the other thing that's been happening is a lot of people aren't making it as what they were. You know, a lot of people have been dealing with longer bouts of unemployment. There's been a lot of uncertainty in different industries. Uh, Money in general just doesn't spend like it was 5 years ago. Even like it's just like food and just living costs and everything has just increased so much that in order to keep up, luxury goods like a game console end up falling by the wayside a bit more, and every 25 $50 gap that system goes up in price is just going to price out more and more people. um, and again, it's a reaction to something that wasn't necessarily Nintendo's initial call. I mean, clearly they had that price point set out and were intending to charge that price point until the news broke. um, and we're just kind of waiting to see if they do adjust it or not. How much of a loss they're willing to take. Because that's the thing too. We don't know on the back end like what they were really profiting, right? Like who knows how much it costs to produce these. I'm sure we'll eventually get that figure, but right now, for all we know, each system is costing them $380, and that 450 was, uh, you know, a healthy profit margin, but not like insane. and
Yeah.
would definitely need to be balanced out with a tariff of this size hitting it. So yeah, that's it's not great.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
very unfun kind of middle period right now of us just trying to see where this ends up going. And the thing is too, like, the way Nintendo solves this may not be just simply raising the price of the system. Accessories, games, physical games at least. These are all things where technically the charge is going up on those too because they're all goods being shipped to the U.S. And so we don't, who knows if it's just the console alone that's going to get hit by this. Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Uh and
it's
it's
ugly.
also just like kind of putting into perspective that like it just kind of sucks because the Switch was just it's just been so successful, and like the Switch there's been like just like a lot of, even like with the tariffs aside, but like tariffs probably most notably, just like it's affecting how successful this system is going to be. Like
Oh, sure.
I don't know if it's going to like sell the way that it could have now with everything going on, even at the it's 450 price, right? Again, we going back to like the Treehouse Live and how people have reacted to the price point now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It'll be very interesting to see.
yeah, the price point, the initial price point reaction at least, because again, post tariff, that's a whole other conversation. The pre tariff price point of 450, I think that's one of those things where there's a lot of vocal distaste, but I think there would have been. I feel like a lot of people would complain and still buy, or the people complaining are not representative of like the larger market that ends up going for it. Um, it certainly had no chance in this current economy to live up to like what the initial Switch's momentum was, right? Like the Switch came in as something that didn't really have any other handheld competition at the time. It was at a lower price point at a time when your dollar went farther. uh, it was just a lot more that like that $300 was so much more digestible back then, and now we've got a system that's 1.5 times that cost when money
Yeah.
doesn't spend like it did 8 years ago. So yeah, that's rough, and we'll just kind of keep updating as we learn more about whether or not they lock in a price or other factors that might help keep that price hopefully down, but we'll just have to see. Another thing that's been going on the last week, and this has actually been a bit of a back and forth, is the status of Nintendo Switch 2 edition games. Now, this is something we talked about last week in terms of what those are in concept. These are games that are effectively just Switch 2 native versions of games already released on the Switch 1 or upcoming titles that are going to be cross gen. Uh, both major Legend of Zelda games, Metroid Prime 4, uh, Kirby, etc. Uh, there was a claim, I'm trying to pick my right wording here, that the physical copies of these games were not going to actually be physical copies, at least in the traditional what you would expect sense. The claim was that you were going to be getting a Switch 1 cart with a download code for the upgrade. And that would also go hand in hand with why the Switch 2 edition upgrades have like the big old text on the front. This came from I believe the original source of this was Does It Play was sharing this, and it was not something that they themselves learned firsthand, but one of their audience members sent along an email to them that was like, "Hey, I was talking to Nintendo UK customer support and asking, trying to get a hard answer on like what form of these carts taking." And they said that it's going to be a Switch 1 cart with a download code. And everyone ran with that as like, oh, that does make a certain sense. That kind of sounds like a thing Nintendo would do. And it was a store rep who said it. That must be what's happening. But as of yesterday, it looks like we got an update to this where YouTuber Nintendo Prime emailed Nintendo and got a reply from that store saying that no, it is all on the cart, the upgrade and everything. That's going to be in one cart. Now, the thing that I'm curious about with this is that I'm fairly certain the store that he contacted, the My Nintendo store, was for the US. And so there's a part of me that wonders if both of these are correct and it's a matter of region, which would be a headache, or if perhaps information was just outdated or incorrect. Someone reported the wrong thing with that first one, or maybe even this follow up one. We haven't really gotten like an actual hard official announcement anywhere other than emails from store reps. So I'm very curious what this actually ends up being in the end. Based on this follow-up one, I'm leaning towards yes, it's just all on cart, which would certainly be preferable. I think a lot of people would like to have that. Because on the one hand, look, it's nice to collect physical games because you want the shiny case. But also the main reason why a lot of people are interested in physical is because they like having the complete game on the cart. And if you don't need to rely on a download to access that full version of the game, all the better. And so while that previous approach would give you the full Switch 1 version, it would lock the Switch 2 stuff behind DLC. Uh, this makes it sound like it would be all on a cart. So this is another thing where I feel like it's a little back and forth, and we haven't really gotten a great like, okay, cool, the official Nintendo account has said this, but it sounds like it's going to be more on cart for now.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes me happy because I remember when I initially saw that it wasn't, I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the point of this?
yeah,
And now, I mean, like, I get the point because there will be a rare percentage of Switch 2 audience that didn't have a Switch, right? And
sure.
so it's just like, oh, yep, here you go, here's the game, and then the code for the upgrade pack. But yeah, that would have that when the initial reports or like rumors of that came out, I was just like, please don't be true.
Yeah,
Please do not be true.
yeah,
So I think like based off of what we know, I do think I agree with you. I think that it is going to all be on the cart. I don't think there's going to be any issues there, which is nice to hear. Um, so
yeah.
cool.
I think the only thing you got to contend with now is that gigantic disclosure text on the front, which makes less sense to me now.
Yeah,
Because that made sense to me
yeah,
to have disclosure text if, like, you know, a large part of the content was behind a DLC voucher. It
yes,
makes less sense to me for them to have a paragraph disclosure to say this is a Switch 2 version of a Switch 1 game. Like that feels weird to me still. But
yeah,
so it goes. Legit, there was a part of my stupid brain that's like, let's still get the Switch 1 version and just pay for the upgrade. I realize it's not complete on cart, but the box is prettier. Or do both if you're really unhinged. Uh, Other news. I swear I didn't try writing this in order of like negative sounding news back to back. It's just how my notes came together. And this actually to me is not as negative of news as some people are taking it to be. I feel like this has been a weird thing, but it has been confirmed that Hall Effect sticks will not be in Joy-Cons. Now, if you hear me say that and you're like, I don't even know what Hall Effect sticks are, congratulations, you're a normal consumer. You're a regular person. So Hall Effect, this is a whole debate that's happened in like the Switch accessory community and people that pay way more attention to things. Um, the one thing we all know, obviously, is Joy-Con Drift. Joy-Con Drift was a very popular, big thing that happened. Not popular in the sense of people liking it, but it was widespread, and a lot of people were having drift. And a solution to that came out later in the Switch's life cycle is Hall Effect sticks. This is not a thing Nintendo themselves did, but all third-party manufacturers started going, "Oh, well, we're going to use Hall Effect sticks because Hall Effect sticks can't drift," which is true. And so when it comes to like third-party controllers, 8-bit Do, uh, just a whole bunch of these like major third party companies, they're all now advertising, hey, we have Hall Effect sticks in our controllers. And that's fine. That's great. Cool. They cost a little more to make, but there's this nice peace of mind that comes with them. It's hit this point where a lot of people now have this perception that like if it's not Hall Effect, it's doomed to drift no matter what, and like it's just a terrible investment, and why would Nintendo do this to us? Nintendo has said that they've worked on the durability of these new sticks, and that's just a thing that we're just not gonna know until we really see them hit the market. But like the thing is, the type of sticks that Switch relies on are the same type of sticks that Xbox relies on, that PlayStation relies on. All of these controllers can develop stick drift. It's just a matter of whether or not the specific module that's designed, fails faster, basically. Um, so yeah, there's a segment of people who are very unhappy about the fact that Hall Effect is confirmed not to be in Switch 2 Joy-Cons. Uh, Third parties, I'm sure, are super happy. You're going to see a bunch of manufacturers continue to push this as being a big selling point of their stuff. And it is a nice peace of mind to have. Especially, like, I know people who've had that bad luck where they just got like 6 Joy-Cons in a row that drifted. And I know people that use their launch ones and haven't had a problem. Luck just works
yeah.
that way sometimes.
I have never had. I have had. I mean, granted, I've had 4 Switches throughout the lifetime of the Switch, and I've never had to deal with drift on any of the Joy Cons I've had.
I've had one stick drift. But I admit in my own case, I am not necessarily representative of everyone's situation because of the fact that like me keeping on top of covering the Switch, I've also just gone through a lot of Joy-Cons. I've updated my Joy-Con color fairly often.
Same,
I've used a lot of
same.
third-party ones, and so like I hesitate to be like, oh, it was never an issue for me because like I didn't necessarily put any single pair through the same wear and tear that someone who like just got their primary ones did. But I
Yeah.
will say the main ones I used for the longest time, which are my Mario Red Joy Cons, the right one did drift, and I replaced that myself because that's just my favorite color one. So
Anniversary Mario or the Mario Odyssey ones?
Mario Odyssey ones,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
yeah, the deeper red. I don't actually like the anniversary one as much. It's like a brighter.
No, that's
No, deeper red.
crazy.
It's way better looking. It's like
Oh,
actually
dude,
red instead of like
the
bordering on
the
orange.
all red Switch in dock is so good.
If it was the same red as the Mario Odyssey red, it'd be perfect. But instead, they made it slightly brighter, and that bothers me. um,
Nah, nah,
yeah,
nah,
yeah,
nah, nah.
yeah. Perfect,
Also,
perfect.
5 switches. Actually, 5 switches. I went through.
Damn. Another
Listen,
thing.
I'm a sucker for the special edition ones. You know.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I'm just as guilty. I mean, I also do it because I
Did you get
bought
the
them as a
Dragon
kid too.
Quest Switch?
I didn't. I ended up not importing that one. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that
I
hurts.
forget.
That feels
That
wrong.
was a light, right? Or was that? I'm
No,
trying to remember which one that
no.
was.
Yeah, it had a dock. It was like
Okay,
a OG Switch.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. It was. Oh, it was before the red box, huh? Before the battery increase.
Maybe,
Yeah, I
maybe.
think I
But
remember
yeah, it
one
had
because it was Japan only,
the
right?
it had the shield and the sword on the dock.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we gotta fix that. We gotta get you that somehow.
That'd be fine. I got my Zelda ones. I'm happy. I do love Dragon Quest, but honestly, more than anything, I need to import before they go away the Hori. Even though they're third party, they have the slime blue ones where the slime is hiding
Yes,
inside. I love that
the
one.
slime blue, or oh, they're gonna say the slime blue like controller,
Well, I have the
like
slime. No, I
like
mean
the
I have the
slime.
slime controller. He's just back there. I mean,
Oh, is that
he's
what that
in frame.
is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
No, they made the what do you call them? The Split Pad Pro, but like the Split Pad Pro Lite, whatever the slightly smaller version is, where they're the big Joy
sure.
Cons and only work connected to the Switch.
Hmm.
They're the slime blue, but even better, when you move the stick up, the slime face is hiding inside like the stick bump. So when you tilt to the right way, you just see a little slime face poking out at you. It's extremely
Okay.
cute. I'll send you a picture later. Yeah, look this up. Look up Ori Split Pad Pro slime. It's great. Another thing that we've now confirmed, I know this is going to bother some people. I'm actually happy about this, but I know there's a lot of people that are going to be angry at it. Nintendo has confirmed, despite the fact that they are kind of doing this for some specific games, the Switch 2 is not adding an achievement system. There was a little confusion about this because they did announce kind of achievements for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but those are not a thing on the Switch 2 itself. This is a feature that's a part of Zelda Notes, which is that whole mobile phone app integration thing into the Switch 2 versions of those games. So there are achievements for those games in particular that you can access and look at on your phone, but Switch 2 itself is not getting any kind of achievement system. They're not adding their own version of trophies. They're not adding achievements. That is staying off the Switch still. I know some folks that lament this deeply, and some people that are like, "Thank God, it's still one last bastion that doesn't have this included." It's very interesting how polarizing the concept of points for playing can get some people to react.
Yeah, I again back on the 360 era, I was all about achievements, baby. All about achievements. But once you graduate college, y'all, you ain't got time for that shit. Like
Yeah,
for the like it's one of those things like I totally understand people respecting the like, wanting to do what they want to do with video games during their time.
sure.
I do not understand people that take the time to platinum or like get all the achievements for almost every game they play. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like it makes me feel like I don't love games the way that those people do because I'm just like there are very few games nowadays where I will like take the time and be like I need to do everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is a kind of like a not for everyone, but like I know a lot of people that like that is like a regular thing where it's just
No,
like
for
got to
sure.
get the platinum, got to, and I'm like I don't know how y'all do it. Like I don't like I run into a game that would make me want to do this like maybe once or twice a year, every 2 years. Like I like I'm the Kingdom Hearts guy. I'm not platinuming any fucking Kingdom Hearts game. Like you're not gonna you can't make me. Like I just first off the trophy lists are terrible. Like if they were like easier trophy lists, maybe. Or you know, achievement lists, maybe. But the ones that they have are really bad, and I'm like, I'm not like one achievement alone is beating Kingdom Hearts 1 all the way through in less than 15 hours. For one trophy. I'm like, go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, I do not care. Um I think that if you really want achievement, like if achievements are that precious to you that like it will make or break how much you play your Switch 2, your brain is wired in a way I don't understand.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't want to shame too much people that like do think that way.
No, I'm not trying to shame.
Absolutely. No, 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 no.
I'm not
I know you're not.
shaming.
I'm just saying like I don't want to, but it is a very alien concept to me. Like people who go out of
Yes.
their way to play games that are easy platinums or 100% achievement, not because it's a game they want to play, but because like, oh, I can take 3 hours and it's going to give me another plat. Completely alien to my brain. I'm like, why would you?
Yeah.
You could just make fair progress in a game you want to play because it's a game you want to play. But I
Yeah.
know
It's like
people that are that way. They'll go out of their way to play stuff where it's like, oh, this game's $5. I can get a plat in 2 hours. Let's go.
yeah. It was like I was like, I would rather use those 3 hours to play a different game,
Yeah.
you know, that I've never played before. But yeah, you know, so I'm happy. I'm not happy that there aren't achievements, but like I'm happy either way. I'm
Yeah.
happy either way.
Before getting to some game specific news, one last thing about the Switch in general, and this is good news. This is something that was kind of assumed when it was first announced, but we now have confirmation. Game key games are not going to be tied to a specific account or specific Switch. Quick reminder if you don't know what that is, Game Key Games is something that was announced as part of Switch 2, where there are going to be some games where you buy a cart that is basically symbolic. It acts as a cart check to make sure that you have that cart for the game, but it doesn't have any actual game data on it. You have to download it from an online shop. There was some fear and worry that this was going to be basically like the same equivalent as a code in a box where you have to link it to your Nintendo account, so you still have to use the cart for a check, but you can't actually use it on any other systems or something like that. Not the case. It works just like a regular cart in sense of there are no additional restrictions. You can sell the game, you can let a friend borrow it, whatever, and it will work for them as long as the eShop is up and running and allows you to download that game still. So there's a preservation level that's still scary about Game Key, and it's certainly something that I think a lot of people don't want to see like their favorite games be a part of. But if you were at least worried about the kind of ability to lend it out or treat it like a traditional physical game, that is a freedom with those still. So not as good as a traditional physical in my mind, but not as bad as it could be. All right, let's talk about a couple specific game updates as well. Welcome Tour, the tutorial game that everyone would assume would be something to be included that's being sold separately. We already knew it was being sold separately, but we didn't know how much it was going to be. I think we talked last week. I might have known the Japanese price for it, which was 990 yen, which is roughly like $6. So that led to some speculation of like maybe it'll be 5 for us. It's not. It's 10. Which look, 10's asking a lot for what this is. This better
$10
have.
too much.
There's going to be people that buy it, certainly. Like I don't think no one's going to buy it at 10. But for this to like sell to more than just like dedicated folks or people with money to burn, there better be a fire mini game hiding on this thing. Like there's got to be some specific, like other than guess the frame rate, they got to drop some kind of interesting mini game that'll actually like get the word of mouth going to be like, hey, I know this is dumb. Go buy this game for $10. Like you got to play, you got to play the mouse tutorial game. Like that's actually going to be cool. I don't know. But yeah, it's $10 for a digital only game that feels like it should be a pack in, but here we are. That's how it is.
Yeah. $10 too much. Will
Yep.
not be purchasing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like and historically Nintendo's never liked the idea of packaging like that. Like even Wii Sports was a US specific thing or worldwide at least. That like I think it was Reggie specifically who like fought for having that be a bundle in and not sold separately because he was like, look, just like trust me, American families, they're like they'll see the value in the system the moment they're able to play this. No one's gonna go out of their way to just buy it straight up. Like just let it be a pack in. It's something special, and it worked out great. But historically, Nintendo doesn't really like doing that. And here we are with this game selling for $10. In sadder game update news, I was wrong about Duskbloods, partially at least. I still stand by the fact this game looks like it continues in the vein of Bloodborne, and there certainly are some design aesthetics and bits of gameplay that look very similar. But it has been clarified in interviews with Miyazaki that this is something a little different, something a little new from Soft, in that this is actually another multiplayer focused title that they're describing as PvPvE. We have some general descriptions in the interview of how the game is going to handle and play like. You pick between different characters to play as that'll affect your loadout and abilities. It kind of sounds like it has things in common with like a battle royale, but not necessarily with like the kind of scope you'd expect from games that usually get titled with that genre. There is a versus environment aspect of it that's still involved because they were emphasizing the idea that like even if you don't like focusing on player versus player, there are ways to win matches if you're like good at handling environmental stuff and not getting killed by other players. Uh, I feel like this is one of those things where we learned a little bit more about the game, but now it's just leading to more questions in terms of like what the full framework of this game is like and how it's going to play. I will say, just as someone who primarily enjoys FromSoft games for like world building and lore aspects, and I don't generally play them for the combat, uh, definitely took the wind out of my sails for it. It's really funny too because they clearly recognize the fact that like this is two multiplayer games in a row between this and Night Rain. As part of the interview, Miyazaki's even like, "Hey, I know we're dropping two multiplayer games in a row. I swear we're getting back to single player soon. Like we're cooking on other stuff. Don't worry." But yeah, that's two player versus player focused games coming out back to back. So it is what it is. Uh, Here's a cool one. Hades 2 has been announced and confirmed as being a timed exclusive for Switch. Something that was unclear from the initial announcement from the Switch 2 Direct that has been clarified is that it will be on the regular Switch as well. It is not a Switch 2 exclusive in the sense of like next gen. It's just Switch exclusive in terms of like versus other consoles. The full launch date, well, we don't have it just yet, will be the release date for the PC versions that have been in early access and for Switch 1 and 2, while Xbox and PlayStation will be getting it at a later date. We don't know how long of a wait that's going to be.
And they did clarify, correct, that uh, it's not a launch title. Like
No,
Hades 2 is not coming out June 5th. It's
yes.
just going to be a console exclusive when it comes to console.
Yes, we don't have a date just yet. They have not
Okay.
clarified what day it's actually releasing, just that when it does, it will be a timed console exclusive for Nintendo systems.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes. Here's like a little one that just looks interesting. We got the reveal of a new kind of indie level game that's taking advantage of Switch 2 features, Mousework. This is a new game from Nitrome. This is a studio that's been around for a long time. Primarily, their history is rooted a bit more in like Flash games and mobile games, but they have done some console stuff. Shovel Knight Dig is probably like the biggest thing a lot of people would know them for.
Yeah.
But they've announced they have a new game coming out for Switch 2 called Mousework that is entirely focused on using the mouse style input. It is a kind of multiplayer party game where you're using the mouse to control little mice. And I don't know, it looks like a fun little thing. I think Nitro makes fun stuff, even though they haven't released too many things on traditional consoles. Shovel Knight Dig was a good time, so I am down to see what they're doing with this upcoming game.
Shovel Knight Dig, like, I feel like did not get the love it deserved. That was a really good game.
It was good. I think it runs into the problem of like, because I will say this, I like Shovel Knight Dig, but if I was like going off of how much I like it versus uh, Shovel Knight itself, or like Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, even, I feel like Dig is probably my like least favorite of things using that IP. And I think the problem is that it's a different kind of genre for where like you started. You know what I mean? Like you have to be really into that genre itself to try it out, or you have to like both Shovel Knight and that genre, I think, to get into it. And I think it's really
Dang.
good. And I enjoyed
I
it. But it's not my favorite of that like set of games.
It was funny too because I was just like because I played it like when they first showed it off. I think at PAX West, like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was just like, I talked to Celia like, hey, what are the chances of this getting a physical release? Because I really want this on a cart. And she was just like, don't catch your breath, homie. I was like, okay, cool. So, but admittedly, I haven't played that game as much as I would like because that's just kind of the reality of like just playing video games nowadays. There's so many games that like like for me, it's just like yeah, I'm gonna prioritize trying to finish some JRPGs, but like man, I really really loved Shovel Knight Dig, and I want to beat that game someday. When when that day will be, who knows?
The backlog never ends. One last quick little story I want to highlight, and this really isn't about the Switch 2 itself as much. Well, it is a bit. We got official resolutions for the Switch 2 camera as well as the Hori Piranha Plant camera. If you guys didn't see this, I think we talked about this in the last show. Along with the Switch 2 camera that was unveiled as part of the Direct, Hori did announce their own Switch 2 camera that is Piranha Plant that just looks really cute, and you could even like turn the camera off by closing its mouth so it blocks the camera. It's a fun idea. It's cute. Uh, so the official camera is a 1080p camera, which like solid, respectable. I mean, I expected a webcam style experience from this, right? Like
Yeah.
this is not you're not using this to record like professional videos. So yeah, 1080p, solid, sounds good. The Hori one is 480p, which is not quite as clear. That is a significantly less good looking image. So
That's crazy.
yeah, it's such a cool looking design, but the camera quality is not actually there, it turns out. So, I'm sure there are going to be some people that still want to pick this thing up because it's a cute idea and maybe you don't care about being a blurry mess on your talks, but yeah, it looks like if you want to have a solid licensed camera option, the official first party one is definitely more so the way to go, as far as just getting a good looking image.
Well, the Piranha Plant was only going to take him so far. You know what I mean?
Yep. I had my suspicion because I was just like, like not even because I generally like Hori. Like I've enjoyed a lot of their accessories. I've covered quite a few of them. There's a few that I still regularly use. But the moment that I saw that they were doing like this fun Piranha Plant design, it's the third party option. I was like, all right, what's the trade off? Like just what's
Yeah.
it's just I know it's coming. Like I know like it's a cute design, but where performance wise, how we stacking up? And I gotta say, 40p is actually worse than I was worrying. So yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Um, we didn't this isn't something you brought up about, but I kind of want your like speculation on. There
Sure.
was a potential leak regarding the box art of Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Yes, I thought about talking about this or not because I feel like some people get weird about spoilers for things that haven't been officially unveiled. So,
I
uh,
mean, what is there to spoil about this particular thing though? You know what I mean?
I mean the other character involved. Uh,
I
yeah,
don't
okay.
know
So
like
skip ahead like a minute. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a timestamp. But like, if you don't want if you want to know as little as possible about Bonanza, don't like just skip ahead 2 minutes. So there is cover art that has been revealed accidentally for Bonanza, where it's the cover art we've already seen, but an important difference is we have what looks like a redesigned Pauline holding onto the back of Donkey Kong. She looks like a kid, like it's not like baby level, but it's not her regular adult design. Uh, it really cute looking. Like it looks fun. I've seen a lot of comparisons to like Wreck It Ralph energy, where she's
yeah.
Vanellope to Ralph. Um, I I think it's neat. I think that's cool. I like the design look. I've seen a lot of people worry about like canonicity. It's like, wait, but if she was an adult when Cranky Kong kidnapped her while he was Donkey Kong, and this Donkey Kong is, descended, how is she suddenly a kid? And I'm like, guys, it's video games. There does not have to be a maintained timeline. And who knows? There's a curse. There's some weird magic mojo that happens. I don't know. It does actually look like that's part of the plot is that she gets turned into one of those rock things because you see the Rock in trailers like singing and doing tones and stuff, and she's wearing a bracelet that matches the Rock's
Mm,
coloration and design. It's yeah, there's some interesting reading
mm.
into it. I'm very excited to see if we get like a dedicated trailer to revealing that aspect of the plot and what like the gimmick with that is.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, again, I'm not a huge Mario guy, but I also it's more like for me, what does this mean? Like, what is, should we be excited about this? Because, like, Pauline was introduced in Odyssey, right? Like, that was,
No, no, she so oh, so you're missing the history on this. Pauline
yeah,
is
I'm missing
who
the history.
Pauline is who Donkey Kong kidnaps in the original Donkey Kong game. Like in the game where you're Mario going to save like the woman kidnapped by Donkey Kong, that's Pauline.
Oh,
So her in Odyssey was like a
oh,
fun throwback where it's like, oh, like it's New Donk City and she's the mayor, and like that was like a whole fun throwback to that character,
I
and it was the
definitely
first
thought
Donkey
that
Kong.
was Peach.
Yeah,
I
nope,
definitely thought that was Peach.
nope, Peach didn't exist yet. I mean, Mario didn't really exist yet, really, like as Mario as we know him today. Um, yeah, Pauline is technically the oldest of those designs. Like if you go back to like
Okay,
old cabinet art, it's a woman in a red dress, and that's what Pauline is based off of. I forget if she was officially named Pauline back then or not, because I don't know my Donkey Kong lore that well. Um,
so
but
this is like a lot of people are like kind of, I guess I assume a lot of people are kind of theorizing that this is a prequel.
well, so that's where it does make sense though, is because the Donkey Kong from that game is Cranky Kong.
Oh my
That is
gosh.
Donkey Kong lore. That Cranky Kong is the original DK from those old games, and the Donkey Kong we play as now is a descendant of his. There's some debate on
Oh,
if he's the son or grandson, whatever. I forget the actual right answer on this, but the point is that yeah, that's Donkey Kong. So
people
that's why it doesn't
people
make
out
sense.
here people out here criticizing Kingdom Hearts lore and then this
Yeah,
shit
but
happens
you're not
like
supposed to be looking for lore in Donkey Kong. There's no overarching plot we're trying to learn. Like the man wants his bananas back. That is literally the plot of like 6 games.
mhm
Like
mhm mhm yeah, yeah.
anyway.
Okay, cool. I don't fucking know. Alrighty. Um cool. Is there any other Switch 2 news that we should be
Yeah,
aware
like
of?
I feel like it covers all the major stuff. I mean, there's all these little bits and pieces of info coming left and right. Little bits of details about some of the upcoming games. There's been a couple games confirmed that weren't previously. Like I know we're getting Sonic Shadow Generations. I forget if we talked about that last week. Uh,
Yeah, there's some games that like have been announced for Switch 2, but like nothing, nothing like major
Yeah,
that
like
I,
the
think is
most of
like,
the big stuff is what we saw at the direct, and then the big follow up news is the pre order delay and some details about the system that we're like still actively learning about. I guess one thing too, this wasn't during our episode, but right after we did our episode, there were releases of hands on impressions. Turns out Nintendo did have a uh, event for a bunch of press as well as some content creators to come out and try stuff hands on. And I will say, from a lot of the impressions I've seen from that event, generally lots of praise. Mouse stuff is apparently feels super intuitive. Donkey Kong Bonanza is a ton of fun. I can't say I really saw any like major negative criticism from the hands-on. It was all pretty excited.
uh, which, not surprising.
Yeah.
Okay, well, uh, thanks for the update, Kevin, on all the Switch 2 stuff. I'm sure we'll come back to you again on
Over the
that
cup,
stuff
yeah.
in the future.
Over the next 2 months, we're gonna
Um,
keep getting updates for sure.
Yeah, but there's a few things, just small, quick things I thought might be worth mentioning for those tuning in and listening. Um, First being that we did get confirmation that there's going to be no information on games when it comes to this near anniversary stream that's happening on April 19th, I believe. Yeah, on April 19th. So, if you were hoping for the next near game, or yeah, that's really all it would be, or like maybe Drakengard, something, not gonna happen. Not happening this time around. So, unfortunate. Kev, you're a near sicko. Any thoughts on this?
I mean, like, I think we talked about this when we first saw the announcement of the concert. Like, I would love game info, and I wish we were getting it, but at the same time, I'm not that surprised. Like, I feel like Near 3 is further out than anyone wants to admit. uh, yeah, I hope to learn more about his next project sometime soon. Sad it's not going to be this event, but I'm not that surprised.
Makes sense. Uh, One thing that's worth noting that is really cool. Atlas has launched a Atlas Game Music YouTube channel where you can basically listen to the soundtracks of like a lot of their major franchises. You can listen to like Persona, like Persona 4, 5, Reload 3, a lot of the SMT, like it looks like all the SMT soundtracks are on here. Metaphor, Refantasio, and then some of their like kind of more smaller franchises like Devil Survivor 1 and 2, uh, Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, Soul Hackers 2, Last Bible, things like that. It doesn't look like, which I guess I can understand. No Tokyo Mirage Sessions. No Tokyo Mirage Sessions, everybody.
Probably wrapped up with Nintendo, right? There's probably weird licensing
Yeah,
stuff with that where like maybe there are themes that play off of Fire Emblem theme stuff, so that gets into weird like artist crediting rights, and anytime there's collaborative stuff, there's licensing nightmares that get involved.
yeah, no, it makes sense. Still makes it's still sad
But yeah,
about it
still sad
though.
about it. Yeah, of
um,
course.
One thing that's worth mentioning for physical collectors is that Video Games Plus is doing a reprint of Ys Memories of Celceta for PS4. They also recently like did a reprint of Cold Steel 1 and 2 for PS4, which was a huge reprint, considering that game was like selling for like 200 each or something at the time. Um, so that's a huge W. And yeah, that is about it for the news for this week. It's been outside of Switch stuff, it's been
Can
pretty chill.
can we touch real quick
Uh
on the
yeah.
conspiracy theories of Final Fantasy IX remake still going strong?
Yes. You reminded me on that. Yeah, so there's been like rumors that ongoing speculation that there's something Final Fantasy IX remake happening as the Square Enix social team made this very um
Cryptic.
ominous post. Would you call it ominous?
Yeah, ominous. Yeah, actually, ominous makes more sense than cryptic, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, cryptic is also a good thing. Where they just had like a screen, like a black screen with "My memories will be part of the sky," which I don't know anything about Final Fantasy IX, but that is a reference that is a part of that game. So people are just like, uh, what are you doing? Like, stop teasing us. Especially because the text on like above the photo on Twitter is "if you know, you know," and so it's just like, come on, come on, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, the rough thing about this, right? Like, look, an ominous post like this is no matter what going to invite speculation or hope of a remake. But it's all been made worse by the fact that, of course, the Nvidia leak happened however many years ago it was, and had FF9 on the list of games. Um, so, that's a thing that people have kind of just been waiting to see hard confirmed by Square. This is the anniversary of that game, 25 years. So, like, this social post could 100% just be, their comms team being like, yeah, it's the anniversary. Let's put up some stuff celebrating it. And now they're dealing with every person on the internet going, where remake? Where remake? Is this a remake hint? What's happening?
Just
um,
listen here, you motherfuckers.
yeah, and like I get it, like because like I come from both sides of like I understand the headache of like making social posts and people misinterpreting, but on the other hand, I also am an FF9 sicko that's just like, yeah, but what if this was teasing the remake? Like, what if? Um, yeah, it's rough because this is one of those things where like, yes, it was on the Nvidia leak, but obviously it was a game that was not as far along in production as others. And the further away it was from completion, all the more time for plans to change. So you know, I feel like it's fairly safe to say, or at least to assume, that at some point an FF9 remake was being worked on. Whether or
Hmm.
not that is something that got worked on till completion to this day and is coming out sometime in the near future, who knows? It could have been canceled 2 years in, and that was it. We just don't know. And we may never know unless there was some kind of huge disclosure that Square decided to do. Um, yeah, it's rough. I'd like I would like remake. Remake would be cool.
uh, I don't know if we've actually talked about this, but I am curious. Like, what would I'm I'm gonna feel so stupid if I've already asked this question because I
Yeah, you're
totally
good.
forgot. But like, what would you want from a remake, a Final Fantasy IX remake?
I honestly
Like,
don't.
not particularly like in presentation, but I guess like in the sense of updates and things like that.
Yeah, I to be honest, like the real answer, I don't know. Like it's one of those things where I enjoy that. It's like when I talk about Chrono Trigger and how I'm like, I don't know if it really needs a remake. Like you could just like clean it
Sure.
up and do a port today, and I would be happy.
Hmm.
Um, I have that kind of similar feeling with Nine, where I'm like, Nine as is works pretty well, and if it did
Hmm.
receive like a heavier remake treatment, obviously the main assumption there is a visual overhaul, potentially a combat overhaul, right? Do they do something similar to Seven remake? Do they actually keep it turn based for some reason? Um, Honestly, my biggest hope and ask is, as much as I'm enjoying the arc that's been going on, don't break it up into multiple games as well. Like we already have one property doing that, and I think Seven, in and of itself, is such a large IP. Like it's such a representative Final Fantasy game that like you can
Yeah.
do that with that. Um, I would like a Nine remake. I don't demand that it has to be one-to-one faithful. Like I'm down for them to experiment, and like I'm always of the mind that if the original one's still around to play, awesome, do what you want. And Nine is available. Like you can play that on a Switch right now. Um, but like don't try breaking it up into like multiple larger pieces. Like just give us the one game, because I
Hmm.
just, while it's fine for Seven, I don't want there to be multiple remake projects going on where I'm trying to keep up with them over a 7 year time span.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we'll see if it actually comes to fruition or not. But I I'm excited to get to that game, the original, eventually. We'll see when that actually happens. uh, yeah. So, Kevin, do you have anything that you've been playing that you want to talk about?
Sure. Won't spend too much time on it, but I actually went back to Eiyuden Chronicle after
Oh,
finishing
okay.
up the Suikoden remasters. Because like I originally intended to beat Eiyuden before they came out, so I could like be like, all right, like I want a fresh comparison.
Hmm.
And I just got there were too many other things I was trying to keep up with. I just lost the momentum. Whatever, it happens. But after I finished Suikoden 2, I was like, all right, I gotta just like I want to go back to Eiyuden and really buckle down and like finish it, because I remember seeing some not unfavorable comparisons, but like there were people who just like weren't as happy with it as they wanted to be, I think. And I was always
Sure.
curious if that was like, okay, is it a problem with the game itself, or is it a problem with your nostalgia fighting playing a brand new game? Um,
Okay.
and I haven't beaten it yet. I'm pretty far. I'm pretty close. I think I have like single digit hours left, which for a JRPG of this size, like that's a fair tiny bit left. Um, I honestly really like it. It has problems. There are a few specific choices that are very weird and in some cases just flat out bad. Uh, like there's a lot of like end game stuff that just like wrecks the momentum. Uh, there's like extra rare materials that you can use to improve your castle and do a lot of late game stuff, but you don't unlock those materials until the very end of the game. And like the only way to harvest them is to either mindlessly grind walking around the specific maps they spawn on, or relying on an in-game mission timer that takes 30 minutes to refresh. So it's just like, cool, I was making a steady progress in this game, but because I want to like max out my castle before going to the end of the game, I now have to dedicate, you know, 3, 4, 5 hours to just grinding materials, which felt like a real awkward choice. Um, Similarly, a problem I think it runs into compared to Suikoden is that, like, for the most part, the huge cast of recruitable characters is pretty easy. There are a lot of people where it's like, yeah, go to this town, talk to this guy, cool, you recruited him. Some of them take a little more work, have a certain item on you, do a special side quest mission for them, whatever. Most part, great. The couple that are really frustrating is they have more characters tied into minigames where you need to, like, invest in the minigame. Like, past weekend games had characters like this, but it would be like, oh, you get this character, you play the minigame once, you recruit them, you can keep doing it if you want, not a requirement. This game's like, yeah, you recruit one character that unlocks the minigame, and then you do a whole minigame side quest where you have to do 30 matches of Beyblades to unlock another character. That was the last character I unlocked. And it was because it was a whole side quest I was just not interested in doing. With a minigame, I didn't find that interesting. But I had to do it if I wanted to recruit everyone. So that was a little bit of a headache. Uh, and then I know I'm doing nothing but complaining here, but overall, very much like the game. My last complaint is I think something it does a disservice to itself is it has some dungeons that are just a little longer than they should be at the start of the game. Like, the second dungeon you go to, I swear, is one of the longest dungeons in this game, or at least feels like it. And it's such a momentum hit at the beginning when you're just like, I just want to get my castle, man. Like, I want to start recruiting people. Like, why am I in this one mine for so long? Uh, I feel like the game really shines like in the middle. There's some startup momentum that feels a little awkward. There's some very late game momentum that messes up the pacing. But when you're, like, right in the main middle arc of that game and you're just making steady progress in the plot and actively recruiting characters and really growing your stuff, it's excellent. Like, I think it honestly goes, like, head to head with some of the better Suikoden games. It doesn't top, like, 2 because that's the legendary one for a lot of people, but at this rate I'm putting it over, like, 4 and 3, maybe even 1, and I like those games. um yeah, I think it's really good. The only other problem is it is also still pretty buggy. It's been, I think we're about to hit a year since release, and I had a couple hard crashes. I've had times where, like,
Oof.
overworld music just stops, like it just doesn't exist. Uh, so I've definitely had a couple odd bugs here and there still that are like, it's been out a while, guys. Like what are we doing? Why are we still having this?
What platform are you playing it on?
PS5.
Steam Deck? PS5. Okay, yeah,
PS5.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know the Switch version in particular was a major headache at release, and I don't know how well
Yeah.
fixed up that one is. Uh, I will say, for the most part, PS5 was, like, solid, but I still hit more bugs than I would like for how long this game's been out, especially when it's, like, straight up the game crashes type stuff.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a game I like. I got a chance to preview it. I want to say it was like the Game Awards in
Yes, I
2022,
did the same one. Yeah,
and I was blown away by like especially like the presentation during combat. I like mouth agape, like I was like, this is one of the most beautiful games I've seen. And then like, and I was super excited for it. And then like all of the performance stuff went out, and I was just like, I was devastated. I was like, oh no. Well, I guess I'll just wait until they fix it, hopefully, and then get to it eventually. And then you see like the visual comparisons of like it on PC versus like not even just on Switch, but like all the consoles, where I was just like, oh man, like not only is it like a wait for the performance to be better, but it's also like I'm probably just gonna play this on PC because it just looks so much better
yeah.
artistically. So it was just like, I want to get to it eventually, but man, that was definitely like one of the biggest disappointments last year, which was like that whole rollout.
Yeah, and what didn't help either was that last year in general was such a great year for, like, other RPGs, which is
Mm,
like, I mean, you never want to have a game have an awkward launch where stuff isn't working right. That's already a problem. It's an even bigger headache when people have way too many other choices of things to play, right? Like,
sure.
exactly your case, right? Like, you were excited for the game after a preview event, heard about the performance issues, and you're like, well, I guess I'll play one of the 75 other RPGs that came out this year that I'm excited for.
Exactly. Yep.
Just rough timing. But I didn't look at how it would be on PC by comparison, but the PS5 version now at least looked pretty solid to me. There were a couple specific scenes where there were some frame rate drops that was a little annoying, but those were very few and far between. It was very specific, odd circumstances that caused it. It was actually mostly in that Beyblade mini game that I wasn't really enjoying. Um, yeah, it's really funny. I think it was actually an attempt to do a slowdown effect, but it didn't like fill the frames, so it's like old school slow motion, right? Where like movies would have slow motion, but it would just be like a weird frame by frame, motion. That's kind of what
Yeah.
happened in it. Um, yeah, but outside of some old school performance issues and I think some weird pacing choices for the beginning and the end, the real meat of that game, excellent. Great cast, great like one of the things that's hard about a game like that too is the cast is so huge. It's like how do you make people actually use characters? And
Hmm.
I think actually did an excellent job of like really showcasing a lot of people. It put you in situations where you actually had like to divide the party up into three groups and actually like, use 18 characters instead of just six in your main party. Um, there were different plot moments where like you're required to bring someone, but there's enough other stuff going on to where you don't feel like you're suddenly handicapped using them. Um, yeah, I think it does a good job of trying to highlight as much of the cast as it can, which is nice because it's rough when you have 120 characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I I mean, at this point, now that Suikoden 1 and 2 are out, like I want to prioritize playing those first. But that
That's
is a
fair.
game I definitely want. That's definitely a game I want to get
Yeah.
to.
And I think that's the right move to be honest. Like before the remasters came out, it was kind of like when are they going to happen? You might as well play Eiyuden now if you want to. But now that those are
Hmm.
out, I definitely think yeah, play 1 and 2 because then you see where Eiyuden's coming from, and also what it's kind of playing with, like what things, what traditions it chose to maintain, and then what stuff did they actually like change up and experiment.
Okay, I see. Cool. I've not played anything because I've been working consistently for the past like week or so. So I just haven't really gotten anywhere. But I'm hoping that I can knock out some hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 3 before next week and or X, sorry, and talk a bit more about that. But as I said a few weeks ago, like for the next few months, things are going to be tight for me to really play a whole lot of anything. So, hopefully, I'll be able to get some time in. But um, for now, that's me. Um, so yeah, so we're gonna go into the topic of the show for this week. And I thought about how we've been like talking a lot about um music, whether it be on this platform or like on this podcast or like Campfire Catalog and things like that. That I kind of wanted us to talk about some of our favorite soundtracks that like and why we appreciate them so much and like what they like how they enhance the gaming experience for us and things like that. Um, so yeah, Kevin, start us off.
Oh man, there's so many good soundtracks. Like, where do I even start? Well, okay, like I think, you know, again, music is a very important component. I feel like we've touched on this a little bit in the past, just when generally talking about games. But like, music is something that I think is oftentimes very underappreciated. Where like,
Hmm.
people can realize they like it, but they don't always put into concept like how that intermingling with the gameplay experience shapes your enjoyment. Because I think there's a lot of music tracks where if you heard it in a void without playing the game, you might still enjoy it, but it's not really working the same as the scene it's accompanying. And you actually enjoy
Sure.
it more listening later because it's evoking like you remember what it was like playing in that moment. You know, uh, and there are a lot of games that I think experiment with genre in interesting ways where like it just really helps give it its own tone. One of the first games I always think about because there's a lot of great composers, and we're going to touch on a bunch of them. But I think the first person actually we really want to talk about is the composer for Nier, because
Mm.
when I think about soundtracks that really stand out in my memory, uh, Okabe's compositions are just there's something else. Like the use of like chanting, the slightly more discordant sounds that get into the mix, The made up languages that have basically become Emmy Evans' whole thing with a lot of different projects. Uh, it's such a interesting thing that I think there are styles that ape it now. Like there's other things we can point to that are similar, but I think especially when like the first Nier dropped, nothing else was really like that at the time. Nothing I can think of, at least. And it just burrowed its way into my brain. Uh, just truly like real emotional impact stuff, especially for the kind of moments that the Nier games like to drive home. There are some tracks where I hear them and I'm just immediately like, God, I remember the scene. uh, just yeah, I feel like it's such a great example of just I think some soundtracks at times can, even when beautiful, can lean a little bit into safer territories of like, almost sounding like a movie composition or something. Uh, but when I think of something that just stands out far more unique, uh, Okabe's stuff just is wonderful.
Cool. Yeah, I know people are like really really love his music, and I I do agree that like there is a definitely like a sense of identity with his music. Um Even though it doesn't like it has like never like hit me like that. I can like recognize like, oh no, I get it. Like I get like why this these moments hit for you. And so yeah, I get it. I get it. Um I'm gonna get the easy one out of the way.
Which one's the easy one? Because there's like three that come into my head right away.
There actually are three that come to my head right now. I'm gonna get rid of the easy one, which like it's really hard to say like, oh, like this game has my favorite soundtrack of all time,
Sure.
because it's just like, because part of it is like the context of like why the music hits for you, right? Part of it is the context of like the game and things like that as well. But I think like one that will just like always be just like timeless for me is is the Pokemon Johto games. I just think
Oh,
that yeah, I just think
didn't go where I
that
thought you were gonna go. I mean, that's also an excellent choice.
yeah, I know that everyone has their favorite generation of Pokemon, and I just think that when especially musically, I think that Johto's untouched. Like there you can't touch the king. Um and again, this is a game that I played when I was for the first time when I was like 6 or 7 years old. You know, nostalgia could totally play a factor in it. But even like a few days ago, I was just like, I'm just gonna like listen to a bunch of tunes, and there's just like so many tunes that are just like autopilot come into my brain, and I'm just like, I remember exactly how this song goes, and I haven't heard it in, if I decided like that I hadn't heard it in like 5 years, I'd just be like, oh, I immediately know what the song is,
Yeah,
in a
core
way
memory
that
stuff.
like, huh?
Core memory stuff where it's just like ingrained in you.
Yeah. And so I just like the general battle music, the route, like the tune when you like go on Route 29 for the first time, and like uh uh the Team Rocket theme when you're battling a Team Rocket grunt, when you're fighting a Johto gym leader, when you're in like a Johto gym, like all of these songs are just like so embedded in my mind. And the Sprout Tower song, like it's just, there's just so much identity of Johto in its music in a way that like I don't think other generations of Pokemon have. I do think that there are notable songs. Like, don't get me wrong, because like I know that there's gonna be some Lavender Town folks that are going to like be yelling at me for being like, "What about Lavender Town? What
I mean,
about
that's
this?"
yeah,
And
and that's like
like,
a number one from the first gen. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But like just the continuous iconic music, like the Slowpoke Well, like there's just Azalea Town, like again, just like the Goldenrod like game corner, like that the music didn't have to go that hard, and it is, and it's a bop, and it's addicting to listen to, and it's just like it. I love it. I love it so much. Um, and I just think that again, we talked about before, just like how the sense of adventure like really plays a huge part in my enjoyment in JRPGs, and like I think that this game's soundtrack amplifies that, to 11. It just
Mhm.
makes it like so much more effective because at that time it was. I mean, I'm not. It's still the case now, but like music, I think played a much heavier role. I guess is the best way to explain it when like the technology was a bit more was more limited, right? Is that a crazy thing to say? Like, would you agree with that?
No, like working within the confines of what was possible at the time. Uh,
Just
like
like in the sense of like game making, like the music played a bigger role because the technology was so limited in the actual aspects of just like game design, of like game development. Does that make
Oh,
sense? Like,
yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and I think there's something to be said for the limitations, not only in terms of like how music is able to carry that extra weight, but even the limitations that music had at the time with like what sounds could be created. I
yes.
think there are a lot of tracks that are created with the audio capabilities of their system at the time that like, yeah, there's been fancier like orchestral versions of made later, and I'll hear it and be like, yeah, that sounds cool. I kind of like the original better because they were designing for that sound type in mind. Like it
Yeah.
works in that old mode. I think a lot of that for a lot of Chrono Trigger tracks. I've heard orchestral versions of those, and I'm like, they're good. They're beautiful in some cases, but like,
Yeah.
then I hear the final boss theme in like the original SNES sounds, and I'm like, no, that's the shit. That's it right there. Like that's the
Yeah.
sound I want.
What 100%. I've talked about it before. Like, there's a really great orchestral cover of like Johto tracks called Johto Legends by uh Braxton Burks, I believe is the name. And it's great. It's like it's so good. But then I'll go and listen on YouTube. It's like, oh, I just want to listen to the Pokemon, the original like, chip tunes, and it's just like so good. And it's like listening to the the surfing theme is so good in that game. The bicycle theme is so good in that game. It just like it has no right to it does have the right, but like it's just so incredibly good that like every I think it is like again, and this might be because I was a child, but like I feel like it was the game where the first game where every new location I went to, I was my like the immediate thought in my mind wasn't like, "Oh, what's this new place gonna look like?" It's like, "What is the music going to sound like?"
Right.
And I just think that's just like the highest compliment I can give because it was just like I was just so tuned in on the music, um, that I just don't think there's like a bad song in that soundtrack, and there's a lot of different songs, and I love it, and it is the soundtrack I can like always go back to and just because I'm not because in admittedly, even though like I'm classically musically trained and I love music, I love performing and things like that. I don't listen to video game music a whole lot. I There's only like a very like maybe like a a couple handful of games that I like regular like I semi regularly oh, I want to listen to this song from or this soundtrack today you know um well, I know other people that like that is like what they mainly listen to, right? They like go out of that's like their main playlist is just a bunch of different video game music, and that's awesome. But like for me, that's just not really. Um, I don't do that very often. But I would say like Pokemon Crystal is like probably the soundtrack I listen to the most. There are certain songs from different soundtracks that I might listen to more, but just like the encompassing like amount of tracks from a game, I think Pokemon Crystal is like my number one.
So speaking of like, you know, tracks that just stick with you, um, I had a very distinct memory pop in my head, uh, and it's not just for what like the story is for one specific game, but it's also just a composer that I in general very much love. I actually thought this was who you were about to bring up earlier, um, but I want to talk a little bit about one of the greats, Yoko Shimomura. Just
The
like,
GOAT,
yeah,
the greatest of all time.
yeah, incredible. Um, but the specific story I want to share is I distinctly remember starting up Final Fantasy 15, which
Oh
was
my
one of
god.
yeah, this was one
Yes,
of her
brother.
yeah, one of her works, one of her best, honestly, like just like incredible stuff on that soundtrack. And not to neg the rest of the game, because I do like 15 overall. Maybe not one of my
Sure.
favorites, but
Sure.
legitimately my favorite moment of that whole game was the title screen. Like starting it up for the
Mm,
first time and the moon that comes in the shot and then Somnus starts playing and it's the instrumental version where the strings kick in. Fucking beautiful. Like just like
yeah.
one of like I remember doing it distinctly too because I think I picked up the game at like a midnight launch or something and like look, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. Like especially like as the years have gone on, there is certainly a degree of like, all right, I don't know if I'm happy with the direction or whatever. But especially at that time with 15, it was like, man, we've been waiting a while. You know, we got that MMO, which is successful, but it's not really what I'm looking for in the single player games. 13 was a
Sure.
little bit of a mixed bag, uh, and there was like a promise almost that came with that title screen and that music that accompanied it, where I was like, oh, and it was all downhill from there. I still like the game. I still like the game, like overall, but like legitimately, I think the moment I felt the most was just that initial boot up and that song hitting. Like that is one of my favorite pieces, like just completely. And it was
I
so.
will. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I was gonna say I will say that like I think that like Final Fantasy 15 is because again uh I struggle with having remote emotional responses from a lot like from in general. So
Mhm.
like a lot of so even in media like I struggle with that. And Final Fantasy 15 is one of the few games where I cried playing that game. And I think that like the way, because we're talking about like the main music or the menu music, the main menu.
Yeah,
Um, I think that the way that game handles the main menu of its game is like part of like what makes that game and like the music in that game so special. Um, because yeah, I agree with you. Like I really like 15. It has obvious problems. But the music was always like so good.
yeah.
Um
It's like an undeniable like high point of that game.
yes. Like
Which,
every time you summoned in that game, like chills.
yeah.
Chills just thinking about it right now. And I think that I we could do like just a whole topic of the show on Yoko Shimomura and like how
Oh
in
yeah.
my opinion she is the goat of video game composers. Like, there's obviously like Uematsu's like, he was the first one to do it, right? He was the first one to really be like, yo, this is what
He was
video
certainly the
game
first.
soundtracks
Yeah.
can be like.
He
But
certainly was the first to have like a level of celebrity about it. Like
yes.
like Shimura was around just as long and was doing stuff on the SNES that was incredible, but I feel like people didn't have the name association yet. Whereas Uematsu had like multiple Final Fantasy games in a row, and so
Yeah.
that was a franchise at its peak with the same name attached each time that like gave him a degree of notoriety and like he was like more visible in a sense, I think, at the time.
Yes. And
Because like
there were also just like some games like Live Live, right? That was Shimomura, but it
so
wasn't
good.
out in the West,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah, but also like Super Mario RPG. That was her, and
yeah,
some
yeah,
incredible tracks on that one. Mana series. I mean, yeah. Again, we can go on forever. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts. Like
Yeah, that
Just
was the next thing I was going to talk about was
yeah.
Kingdom Hearts. We can
Well, there
just
you go.
hop right into
There's the
it, right?
segue.
Like
Yeah, I gave it to you. Doors open.
what
Go in.
I don't, say what you will about Kingdom Hearts as a game. It's undeniable that Kingdom Hearts is one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time. Like as a series wide, like it's for like it is as a series, it is my favorite. Like it is a go. Like Dearly Beloved, the most iconic main menu music of all time. Like
I was at a
is
wedding
there?
where that was what they walked out to.
Yeah, yeah. It is. Yeah, and then just like the honestly, like just a lot of the character themes are absolutely incredible. It was actually funny. I did a stream once where I like last year where I basically did like a verses from like a bunch of different Kingdom Hearts tracks. And I believe my number one track was like the Nomine's theme. And then like one of the other ones was Ventus's theme, and then like Shion's theme, Vector to the Heavens or Vector of the Heavens. Is like the character themes in that game are just so good, and just in general, like in the combat music, so good. And it just the way that it is able to just, and this is you can say that for a lot of Shimomura's work, but especially in Kingdom Hearts, when the story and like the themes are about emotion and feeling and like things like that, that it just enhances all of that tenfold in a way that I just don't really experience in other video games. Um, and so like, yeah, I just, I think that Kingdom Hearts, anyone, y'all can have your opinions about anything but the music, because the music is undeniably like one of the best in video games, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't have to pull my arm that hard on that. Like, Shimamura in general is like for a long time, I feel like Uematsu was like such an easy stock answer, and he's still one of my favorites. But like
Yeah.
going back and listening to more stuff, when it comes to full, again, I opened up with how much I love Okabe's work, but that is for two specific games. Like a specific franchise. The work that she has done spanning multiple projects, even like Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one, like just her work is fantastic, just phenomenal every time, every time. Uh, so I mean, okay, we've touched on him a little bit. Should we talk a little more at length about Imatsu? Because like he does deserve some time too.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, of course, sure.
you know, uh, random side tangent. Have you ever? Because I know you're saying you don't listen to game music too much. Did you ever take the time? Sadly, it's not easily streamable anywhere, as far as I can tell. Did you ever listen to Black Mages?
No.
Oh, so Black Mages was a real band that he led that was uh
Oh,
that was Final Fantasy cover music all in metal. And it was so freaking good. Like,
okay.
yeah, no, these are the old days of
Okay.
like finding stuff on the internet and just like finding ways to listen to it. I don't think any of it exists on like major streaming platforms, sadly.
Uh-huh.
But there are some damn good covers that they did of like classic tracks. Like I remember hearing their version of like Battle on the Big Bridge, I think. Oh, so good. Um, and that's actually the reason I want to bring that up first is because I think it's one of the funniest things about like Uematsu's legacy is that he so often gets, I think, uh, not typecasted, but like people focus a lot on like his very theatrical, kind of classic sounding stuff.
Mhm.
A lot of people will think of like the opening of FF8, for instance. Like that's a big one. I forget the proper name for it right now, but it's the very operatic one, and that gets a lot of love. Uh, and what I've always found interesting is that when you see him in interviews and he talks about stuff, he's like, "Yeah, like that stuff's cool. I wish I could do more metal, like in our soundtracks." Like he loved doing the opening to 10, Another World,
Mm.
like the metal
Mm.
version of that. It's like one of the ones he
Yeah.
had the most fun making because it's like, oh, I can do like a metal track now. Awesome, let's go. Uh, but yeah, I mean, just the man's work across again, kind of the golden years of that franchise. Going over to other games he's worked on that I think always kind of have like a heavy identification with it. Uh, just yeah, great stuff. Like it's such a breadth of those games that it's almost hard for me, I think, to like narrow down a few. Like again, the FF8 opening is such a big one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just like the entirety of FF7, right? Like FF7 is one of the most like, say what you like, I feel like that there are people that like I feel like over time, right? Like the kind of love for 7 has waned a little bit.
Sure.
And I think that I feel like that part of it is just it's always been that way, but also like people like just weren't wanting to speak up about it. But also like historically, it's just it is so relevant.
Yeah.
But like like let the battles begin is like the
Yeah.
battle theme,
The battle theme.
like
Yeah, absolutely. The number of times that like in a D&D session I would jokingly put it on play when we had to do a boss fight, like
yeah,
like that's yeah,
yeah,
that is the battle theme. Like
and it's not even like it's not my favorite, but it is like
it's iconic.
the battle theme. Like like that, outside of like maybe Pokemon, but I also feel like that Pokemon is this like own world type thing where like when you again like people don't really think of Pokemon as like a JRPG the way that we think about Final Fantasy and
Final
like Dragon
Fantasy
Quest
and
and things
Dragon
like that.
Quest and all the big, also non SE ones, but yeah, like there's a certain
Yeah.
difference I think between kids raising monsters to fight each other, like the Pokemon or the monster catching type game, and then the like dudes with spiky hair and big swords going on an adventure.
Yeah, exactly. And while he's in the he's not like not the main guy for remake, but he did do some stuff with remake. Um but it does make me want to bring up another like Square composer who's kind of just been like the guy for a while now over at Square and like I really really love um and I'm trying to make sure I pronounce his name correctly because I know his name is a little bit more complicated.
Are you thinking of
Uh
Soken, or am I missing someone?
no, 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 no. I know people love Soken.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like throw
Yeah,
any
that's who I assumed you were
shit.
gonna talk about, just in terms of, like, because he did 16, he's been
No.
doing 14, and, he's
Yeah,
been
I
kind
know
of the
people really
research.
love Soken.
Yeah.
And I feel like Soken is a kind of situation similar to the Nier composer where it's just like that's just not my bag.
Mm,
Even though like I think he's good in 16, like, you know, um, but Masashi Hamauzu,
mhm.
or who did the I might have butchered his last name. Um, he did the score for the soundtrack for Final Fantasy 13,
Yes.
which for me, I think as a singular game, like that is like right there with uh Pokemon Crystal. Like for the longest time, like those two were like basically my number ones. I would actually probably say at the time I was more aligned with Final Fantasy 13. But that soundtrack is absolutely incredible. Like before I played Trails, the battle theme in 13 was my favorite battle theme.
Yeah.
Um, The Promise, dude. Like sometimes sometimes when you just want to like lay there and like be with yourself and things like that, I will just put on The Promise in the background and just be with myself. You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
just like it's so incredible. It's such an incredible soundtrack.
I was actually thinking earlier how kind of funny, like, when I was mentioning how, like, I think one of the big things about 15, regardless of how you feel about the rest of it, how good the soundtrack is, it's really funny to me how much that actually applies to every single player one since 13. And it's a different composer each time. But, like, Soken with 16, Shimamura with 15, and Hamauza with 13, like, all of those soundtracks are freaking golden. Like, regardless of how you may feel about the rest of those, like, I feel like there's always divisive opinions on the games themselves, but all three of
Mhm.
those soundtracks are incredible. Because I agree, like, I've been a more vocal critic of 13 than you have. I defend it a little bit relatively too. I'm not like a huge hater of it, but like, I'm
Sure.
also like, I'm not putting it high on the list though. Like, I do think it's better than the flack it gets, but I'm still not putting it very high on the list. Uh,
Sure.
but the soundtrack is absolutely one of the like highs of that game. I actually remember playing so Stranger of Paradise. One of
Mm.
the things with that game is each stage has a different theme that is a reference to a different specific Final Fantasy. There's like an anniversary effect to it, and I distinctly remember getting to the stage that had the 13 homage in it because I was just like, "Damn, this is good!" Like even the cover of it, like the remix version that popped up in this game stood out versus all these other stages with other great tracks from other games. But that was one
Yeah.
of the ones where the moment I heard it, I was like, all right, 13. I gotta give you that. Like I can't.
It has the sauce, dude. It has the sauce. It's so good. Um, yeah. Yeah, 13 is incredible. I really like 13 in general, but the music is similar to like Kingdom Hearts. It's like say what you will about the game, the music is absolutely stellar. And but yeah, and then there's like, let's kind of get some of the obvious ones out of the way. Let's talk about Persona,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like
for
Persona.
inventing jazz.
Yeah, they invented jazz. They were the first people to do it. But yeah, Persona is fantastic, and I think that like, I think the opinions of like Persona's music specifically is like more intense than the discussions about which is the best Persona game,
Sure.
right? Because like I think that a lot of people say like, oh, like Persona 5 is like the best because a lot of people just like got into Persona on Persona 5.
Yeah.
And then there's people who are like, oh no, actually it's Persona 3 because of like the hip hop vibes and
Right.
how it like matches the tone of the game, and then there are correct people that say Persona 4.
So
Um,
I will say I do agree with you. Four is actually my favorite as far as the soundtrack
let's
goes.
go,
Three is my
let's
favorite
fucking
overall,
go,
but if like
Kevin.
with the soundtrack alone, I have to agree it's four. But the kind of wider point of this that I think is very interesting about Persona is that kind of like what I was bringing up earlier with how I think Nier is not afraid to like have a soundtrack that is a little more atypical. Um, I think that's something that is wonderful about Persona is that you know they didn't get hung up on like, oh, we have to do like a score sound, or traditionally video game themes do you have this kind of sound. They were like, no, we're doing a rap hip hop vibe thing for three, and then we're not going to carry that forward. We're going to switch up to a more pop sounding soundtrack in four, and then after that, we're going to do jazz. Like the fact that even within their own franchise, they were like, no, we don't. There's not one sound. We're picking a sound that we think is going to match this particular game, and none of them are the kind of thing that I think has become the kind of standard expectation of what like a video game or JRPG soundtrack should sound like. Um, they're all
Yeah.
great, but I
Oh,
agree with you. Force my favorite. Yeah.
they're all amazing, absolutely amazing. Here's an actual hot take though. I think What You Wish For, the battle theme for Persona 5 Strikers, is better than Last Surprise. Like listen to them side by side,
It's been a little bit
and like,
since I played Striker, so that's a little out of my head. I
well, because
I
like here's
want
the
to do
thing.
that now though.
Here's the thing. I can understand like the vibe of the two songs. Like Last Surprise is like, well, it's jazzy and it's a jam, right? It's also like it's a little bit more like it isn't as like intense, right? It's not as intense as because it's a turn-based game. While like Strikers is a real-time action game, so they wanted it to be a little bit more energetic, right? Uh and so I can get that, like that's like the vibe that they were going for, but just like comparing the two for what they are, like Last Surprise is still amazing. Like top 10 battle theme of all time. But I think that What You Wish For is better. But also it's going down now, dude. Dude, that is like the thing I'm like most excited about regarding Persona 4 cuz like I love Persona 4.
Mhm.
I think even though I think it has the best soundtrack, I think its battle theme is the weakest of the three, even if we're including the original Persona 3 battle theme.
Sure.
I think it's the weakest. And so I just want them to bring out like to just create a masterpiece of a battle theme
Yeah.
for Persona 4, whatever rewind or rerun, whatever they end up calling it. Um, because it's going down now. Like that is probably the video games song I listened to the most last year.
Damn.
I just had I literally put it in my K-pop and J-pop playlist
Hmm.
because I'm like I want to listen to this song more, but I don't want to go out of my way to listen to it. So I just want it to pop up every now and then, just be like, yeah,
Hell
let's
yeah.
go. Same thing with the battle theme for episode I guess I forgot what it's called. Don't. It's called
Yes.
Don't, I believe. Yeah, both those songs are in my playlist. Go like I just need them in there. I need them in there. Um, but yeah, Persona good. Persona
Persona
good.
good. Persona good. I mean, especially again, soundtracks fantastic, and I cannot stress enough how much I love the fact that it goes to do something different and
Yes.
really shows what you can accomplish with doing that. And to be fair, part of why I think it works really well there is because it is also a modern day setting. You know, you can even see with Metaphor, while Metaphor absolutely stands out and has a fantastic soundtrack, it is one that I think clings a little closer to what is more traditionally heard, I think, because it digs more into that kind of fantasy vibe where orchestral and, you know, they get the chant in there that is awesome. uh, like the battle theme for Metaphor is incredible. But just like looking at the overall soundtrack, I do think it clings a little closer. Which on that note, like I know I'm praising some of these games for being different. One soundtrack that I think it walks the line of being a little bit of that traditional sound, but then also does experiment a little bit in the mix. And is honestly, I think one of the most snubbed soundtracks. Uh, Octopath Traveler, especially two.
Mm,
Like
okay.
those sound
Okay.
like I've been listening to them again recently actually because I was just like in a conversation with some people and I was like, man, like this shit is good. Like I haven't listened to it in a minute, so I've actually been having that playing in the car the last week, and the way it plays with like character themes and you know the clear sense of identity and like having room to experiment within its sound still. Like I love it's so funny hearing it because a lot of the tracks I would say again, yeah, lean closer to traditional fantasy stuff. A little more heavy emphasis on like strings and acoustic. Uh, and you have the character themes playing back to back, and it's like okay, like Ochet's theme, they add a little bit more like percussion, and there's that kind of like tribal vibe a little bit. Uh, Heavier focus on sad sounding strings for Throne. And then there's Partitio's theme, where suddenly there's an electric guitar and the swankiest saxophone that is nowhere else in the soundtrack. Like
Yeah,
just like just suddenly that is landing, and the way it ties into those character themes, while also just having a great sound individually. I mean, just like I feel like I can't 100% remember, but I feel like that year it wasn't even up for best soundtrack, and it was like how
people don't play JRPGs, man. They're just, they dummy dumbs.
god damn it.
Uh yeah, and I do what was the thing? There's something I wanted to say about one quick thing I want to say about Persona that
Oh,
was I one thing that really irked me about Persona 5 Royal, just a quick thing, and then we can just move on. We don't even have to
I'm
discuss it.
sorry I moved us on
I
too early. I didn't realize
No, you're no, no,
you
you're
were
okay.
processing
No, you're
still.
okay. No, you're okay. I just wanted to say that I hated that they replaced Last Surprise with that other song in Royal. Like if you did the if you snuck up on someone,
Yeah.
instead of Last Surprise, it was like "Bah, bah, bah." I'm like that song sucks compared to Last Surprise. I'm sorry. It sucks. I don't know what y'all were thinking there. But outside of that, I'm not saying the song sucks in general, but compared to Last Surprise, doesn't touch it. Anyway, um yeah, and then you know, I, sadly, and this might be a hot take for a lot of people, I think that the music has not been the same as the series progressed, but Trails, man, got to go back to Trails, and I just got to say that the especially in the Liberal and Crossbell arcs, the music's really really good. I don't have anything in depth to say about it, but I would say more so in uh the really the first Trails game. The Trails in the Sky 1, it's just again how they uh they bring so much identity to Liberal with its music in a way that I don't think that the other arcs do as well at the very least. And it again it just kind of gave me the same vibes as when I play a Pokemon game where you just are kind of, at least for me, I was kind of trained to uh my brain was trained to look out for those things when I play these kind of JRPGs where you go to these new locations, and you're just like, okay, like what is the music like here? Um, and I think that the Trails series, like specifically Sky One, does like an incredible job at that. And like the battle theme, my favorite battle theme, Sophisticated Fight. Um, that I'm very happy that it's getting a. I, I I like the original overall more, but I do like the more like rock jazz type version that they're doing in this remake, which isn't like a brand new thing. They did like an album years ago where they re-released a bunch of tracks. It was like a reimagining of all these songs. And so they're just basically doing Sophisticated Fight from that album into first chapter, which is cool. You know, like that's they don't need to do more than that. And it's incredible. It's also incredible. I like the original more because it's like it has like like the piano and everything. It's just like it feels more jazzy, I guess, if that makes sense. I like how it was like kind of like this pure jazz vibe, while this is more of like a rock
Mhm.
version of that. Um so yeah, Trails is great. Definitely like one of the highlights of that game is the music, and I hope that other people feel that way once the game comes out. And I'm excited just to hear the actual new uh updated versions of like all of these different tracks, right? Like I can't wait to hear the Zeiss theme. I can't wait to hear Leiston Fortress um that really have this jazz vibe to it. Where, in the original in Leiston Fortress, there's like a piano solo in the middle of the song, and there's like a bass solo in the middle. It's just like these things that you just don't really hear a lot of in video game music, where it's just like, hey, let's just like let there be a 20-second piano solo at this part. It's just like, okay, that's cool. It's probably a little bit shorter than that, but still, it's just I just really love like the how they really like they put an emphasis on like this is jazz. Like we're gonna do jazz things instead of just making it jazz sounding. We're doing jazz things in it too,
Mhm.
which is really cool. Um, yeah, trails.
Someday I will
Play
be
trails.
able to go back and forth with you on that one.
Yeah,
Today is
yeah,
not that day.
yeah. Someday we're gonna have to like in all honesty, when you finish the first Trails game, like the OG, we're gonna have a discussion. We're gonna have to a free discussion episode
Yeah.
where like me and you are just gonna chop it up and talk about
Maybe it'll
Trails
be like a
because
bonus campfire or something where it's just like, I finished it, finally. Here we go. Am I in or
it
not? We'll see.
doesn't have to be campfire.
That's
It doesn't
true.
have to be campfire.
That's true. Yeah.
I because it's one of those things like I don't know, like if I finally played a JRPG like you like when I play Final Fantasy 9, if you're like, yo, let's sit down and talk about Final Fantasy 9,
Yeah.
I'm down to talk about it. Like let's do it,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's
Because
how I feel about Trails.
you did already do my number one, which we talked about this a little bit on Campfire Catalog, but Chrono Trigger with
Yeah.
Yasunori Mitsuda's soundtracks. I know it didn't
Yeah.
hit for you as much, but
Mhm.
like, oh man, like that and Chrono Cross together, like the range of emotion in those ones, the character themes, there is some beautiful stuff on those soundtracks as well. Uh, a couple personal favorites of mine that I still go back to this day, either for hype track stuff like some of the battle themes or Frog's theme in Trigger. Uh, you haven't played Cross yet, but Cross has some really beautiful stuff too. One of the overworld themes, I can't remember the name right now, but God, it's gonna bother me now. Another World? It might be called another. No, wait, that was the Final Fantasy X one. But one of the overworld themes in Chrono Cross is just this very laid back, beautiful. I'm a sucker for strings. Like it's come up a couple times already with a few songs I've talked about, like Somnus and Throne's theme. But like that is, I think, actually the first track I heard in that style that instilled that vibe in me, where I just love a good use of strings in a track.
Yeah, again, I enjoy like I appreciated the soundtrack. Um, I I just think that because it was so it's been so allotted
Sure.
that I kind of had just like these super high expectations, and I just don't think for me that they were met. But I do think that there are certain things that like I really did like. Like again, I really loved the prehistoric era music. Like specifically, which kind of sucks because you're not in that period a whole lot throughout the story.
Yeah.
But every time I was on the Wonder Map, I was just kind of like grooving to the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the way that they were able to make the drum sounds. It's just like, oh man, I want to know. It. There were definitely parts of that soundtrack where I was just like, how did they do this? Like, I want to know, like, from a musical standpoint, how did they create this?
Yeah.
Because it was just so cool. Um, and yeah, Chrono Cross. So Chrono Cross was Matsuda as well.
Yes. Yeah. He
Okay, okay.
returned as composer for that track for that title as well.
So what other things has he worked on that would be worth noting?
So I mean, he's been
Because
a little bit all over the place. I honestly feel like some of his biggest works, aside from the Chrono series, he did Xenogears.
okay,
He did the first Xenosaga. I don't think he did the full Saga franchise, but I believe he was on staff for the first one. He's done some. He's done a lot of guest tracks, like a lot of like working with other composers on soundtracks because he did stuff for like Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
I
Uh,
do remember that. I do remember that. I was going to mention that.
yeah. And then he has had like other stuff that was primarily him, but are honestly, I would say just games that people don't know as well. Like I think he's done stuff for like Luminous Arc. The most recent thing, and this is another guest spot, and this was very much a guest spot. Like they built up how it was like, holy shit, I can't believe we actually got him to do this. Was Sea of Stars. He did a couple
Yeah.
tracks for that soundtrack, which was wild because that game is very clearly a homage to Chrono Trigger along with a handful of other SNES era RPGs. And so the fact that he like resonated with it and was like, yeah, like I can make a couple tracks of this, and his tracks are great on it. Like I love the composer that Sabotage uses, Eric W. Brown. Like his stuff's great in general. The Messenger soundtrack is phenomenal. The
Yeah.
stuff he did for Sea of Stars is also great. You can really tell when it's a Mitsuda track just because the vibes are definitely a little different. But like in a good way.
The
Like
vibes are
they
different.
still mesh in the overall package, but like if you kind of did a sound
Yeah.
test and guessed, you could probably like if you're familiar with their other works at least, I feel like you could be like, okay, I think this is a Mitsuda track. Okay, I think this
Mhm.
is Eric.
Yeah. Cool. I just feel like I wanted to ask because I just I know a lot of people really prop his name up, right?
Yeah.
And I
The-
obviously like with Chrono Trigger, like I know with Chrono Trigger alone, like that is enough, right? That is enough to be like, yo, this is the guy who did Chrono Trigger. But
right.
I also was just like, what? I don't think I've ever knew like anything else like that he was like the main composer for. Um, and it sounds like I'm not crazy to have
You're
felt
not.
that way.
You're not. He like a lot of his later stuff. I don't know his like employment history with it of like which companies he was with when or what. But he did a bunch of stuff with Square back to back with like the Chrono games and Xenogears. And then after that, honestly, it feels like he was jumping around different teams or did a lot of like collaborative stuff. Like there's not like
Okay.
if you look at his credits, it's a fairly long list of credits, but then you look at the details and a lot of them are, composed with this name, this name, this name, and composed along with this name, this name, this name, or he did this specific track for this game. There's not as many works that are like start to finish just him.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Is there anything else or anyone else that you want to particularly mention
I
before we wrap things up?
I feel like we've hit all like the main composers that I tend to resonate with and think about, as well as like some specific games. I'm sure I'm forgetting
Mhm.
something.
Yeah,
uh,
like there's definitely some like one-off games that I think have incredible soundtracks that I think that people should listen to, like Paper Mario Color Splash. Like that, like in general, that game is super underrated, but like that game soundtrack is fantastic. Highly recommend it. Um, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I think a big reason like why I prop that game up as highly as I do, even though I think that that game is fantastic, and I'm like I recently started Bowser's Inside Story, and like I'm curious as to how I'm gonna feel about that game comparatively because I know a lot of people like consider that to be the best one, but like another Yoko Shimomura banger, Like really, really great soundtrack. Highly recommend. And Super Mario 3D World. I think that is like one of the best soundtracks in video games. Like it's so so good. Um, yeah, those are like three that immediately come to mind of like, yo, like this soundtrack in particular, this one-off title, very very good. You should check that out. You should check that out.
Good stuff. I think we
All
yeah,
right.
I feel like we could definitely like dig up some more, but
Mhm.
I feel like we've definitely touched on like the big names for
Okay.
us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. There are the obvious names, right? At this point, with because it really also just kind of puts into perspective again just how young the video game industry is.
Yeah.
Where there's again like around 10 like super notable JRPG composers that are still alive and kicking and are continuing to make music, and like while some of them are starting to get there in age like Uematsu and things like that, they're still doing it,
Oh yeah.
right?
Well,
And
and a lot of them
they're still
started so young. I mean, like
yeah,
Mitsuda is an example. Like we were talking about this in Campfire. I think he was like 23 when he did Chrono Trigger, which is
yeah,
maddening. Shimamura as well is like not that old. I think she's like late 50s.
yeah,
Like not
yeah.
not that old.
No,
For having
no.
done this since the 90s. Like
Yeah, and also shout out to her because she got recognized at the BAFTAs, like Lifetime Achievement Award type deal, today
good.
as of recording.
Deserved.
Yeah, yeah, because she also got GDC recognition like a year or two ago before that. Like, girl is the goat.
Yeah.
She,
No,
she,
like, look,
she
I
just
think there's a
is.
lot of great arguments that can be made for different composers, but like, I feel
Yeah,
like you and I are on the same page that if we had to like elect a number one, it's Shimamura. Like,
yeah,
it
yeah,
just like I absolutely love work that Umatsu's done. I think Soken's been doing some
one
great
hundred
stuff
percent.
lately, but like, it's like I love Mitsuda. Like Mitsuda's work's great, but just like I look at the breadth of work that she has done and some of the individual tracks. I mean, Somnus in FF15, Megalomania in Live Alive, which is like what was the inspiration for Megalovania in Undertale. Like I mean, she has just done some incredible tracks. Super Mario
Yeah,
RPG, like in general, start to finish, like oh
yeah,
god,
like yeah, Super Mario RPG, Mario and Luigi series, Kingdom Hearts. It's it is crazy what she has been able to accomplish, and it's like one of those things. She's like the one on top of that, on top of all these obvious things, like she's like the one composer where like I find out like, oh, this was composed by Shimamura. I'm like, that makes sense.
oh
Like,
her,
okay, sure.
yeah, no, her credit list is huge. Like she has had such a large impact and has worked on so many games. I mean, it's
I
yeah,
don't know how she does it. I don't know how she has the time to do it. It's
no clue.
she's like there was a point where people thought that she had like a ghostwriter because I remember like when 15, like it was like the time of like 15 in Kingdom Hearts 3, where people thought that she had a ghostwriter for 15 because she had to work on Kingdom Hearts 3's music.
Well, I mean,
It was just like,
put it this way: you look at that like era, right? Let's start at 2016, right? Uh,
yeah,
like Final Fantasy 15, a couple smaller titles, but then like yeah, working their way to Kingdom Hearts 3, Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story. Well, those were re-releases to be fair. Radiant Historia, like so much, just lots of games all back to back.
yeah. But anyway, that's our topic for the show for this week, everybody. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in, continues to tune in. We appreciate you. This is a work in progress, as I say all the time. But things have been growing, things have been expanding, and it's been really, really exciting. Um, Kevin, do you have anything left for us before we dip out?
Everyone, cross your fingers for what that Switch 2 price is going to end up.
I'm crossing everything, even though I'm not gonna get. I'm probably not gonna get it at launch. I'm crossing everything.
You're going to get it soon
Um,
enough that the lower the better.
yeah. Fun news. Uh, I got a for those that watch the video version. I have a few video game tattoos. I'm trying to show the best way I can show this, and I just put my deposit down for my next one.
Oh boy.
So I'm
Can we get a
what
hint of like what like either franchise or like
see, I feel like if it's a franchise, no, I'm not gonna say it's too easy. Because I don't think like if I said what the franchise was, you'd be like, oh, it's this.
yeah.
But mm,
What company makes the franchise? Or is that also
oh,
gonna be
that does
obvious?
not that's too straightforward. It's too straightforward. I will say it's Pokemon related. I will say it's Pokemon
Okay.
related. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Pokemon related, and honestly, I wasn't like in. So what I'll say is, I'm not gonna say who it is because then then people are just gonna like try and get into the. There might be one person that's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna try and figure this out. But what happened was, uh, I had an idea for this tattoo for the longest time. Oh, you actually know what it is.
Yes,
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
I
you know
do
what it is.
actually. Yeah, as soon as you just
And
Pokemon, I was like, "Oh wait, I think you talked to me about this."
yes,
Okay.
because the thing was like the guy that I wanted to do it. I followed him on Instagram, but there was no shot it was going to happen because he's based in Singapore. And I'm like, I'm not going to Singapore. When am I going to Singapore? That never is that's when. Um and like probably about a month ago at this point, he makes a post on his social saying that he's having a guest spot in San Jose. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I was just like, oh my God. This is a sign, right? Like,
Like
you
you're
know,
not in
when you
San
get
Jose,
those
but
signs,
you're a lot closer to San Jose than you are
yeah,
Singapore.
when you get those signs from the universe of just like, oh, you got to do this. You got to do this. And so I went and so like I was initially going to be like, okay, this guy's not going to be able to do this. This sucks. Here's another guy that does the same type of style, not like I'm not trying to discredit this artist. He's really really great, but not the same. Like I would say to the same level that I like this guy was doing in the
Sure.
sense of like the colors and things like that, and like the style that it's doing. Um, and so, but I was basically like I'm not gonna go to Singapore. So I told you, and he's based like 45 minutes outside of LA around
Mhm.
that. So I told you, I was just like, hey, like there might be a point where I might be in LA, and if we could go down to the city to get this tattoo, I'd really appreciate it. That type of deal.
Right.
But because it was like, I was not in a rush. I was like, it wasn't gonna happen anytime soon. But now that this happened, I'm like, I gotta shoot my shot. I gotta do it. Um, you know, uh I just gotta like put in the work, make that extra money to make it happen. So yeah, so it's happening sometime in May. And I'm really excited about it. It's also gonna be like because my mom's definitely not gonna listen to this. It's also gonna be kind of like a tribute to my mom as well.
Mhm.
Because like my mom, for those that don't know, my mom is a British immigrant that doesn't know jack shit about video games. She does not know anything about video games.
I did not know she was British.
I was born in England. I'm British.
I
We've definitely talked about this.
Have we talked about this? I don't think we've talked
I'm
about this.
sure if you talk to Christine after this podcast, she's gonna be like, "Yeah,
All right. This is
I'm
yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
sure.
You don't have to
I'm
do all this
pretty
too
sure."
long. I was just like, huh, like did
But
I
yeah,
know that? I don't
yeah,
think I
yeah.
knew that. Anyways.
No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, yeah. So I was born in England, and then I moved to America when I was like not even 2 years old. That's why I don't have an accent
Right. Yeah.
because I grew up. Yeah, yeah. But like, yeah. Anyway, uh, which man, boy, do I wish I did. Boy, do I wish I did have an accent. My mom still has hers. She's
Oh, sure.
totally. Um, but anyway, and yeah, I kind of want it to be a tribute to my mom because like she doesn't know jack shit about games, and she bought this game for me when I was like 6 or 7, and because like she knew that I liked Pokemon, so it's just like cool, or cool, and and it's the game that basically made me realize like, oh, this is what video games can be. Like this is what like storytelling in video games can be. And I will say that like I'll give another hint that like it is a story related thing with Pokemon. Um, that was just like that, like me as a young kid was found it like pretty found it compelling, and just be like, wow, like this is the way that this is able to convey the story to a child, like a 6, 7 year old child, and that kind of storytelling still like hits with me today. Part of it is probably nostalgia, that's fine. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to also be like a tribute to like my mom, who like, even though she knows nothing about video games, she always thought it was kind of a waste of time. She always like she always like gave me like the next Pokemon game, or she always like gave me the next Kingdom Hearts game or whatever, because she knew like it meant something to me. And so yeah, it's kind of like just think about like the stereotypical heart, I love mom tattoo, and this is my version of that.
Featuring Pokemon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. um, but yeah, so that's a fun little thing that I got going on in the works. But
Awesome. When are you supposed to get that? Because I know you said you put the deposit down.
in May,
May.
yeah, in May. So I yeah, it's one of those things like this. It is because of this tattoo that I may not be able to go to PAX, because that's just like, it's kind of like one or the other type
Spend money or
situation.
make money.
Yeah, no, it really is at this.
Yeah.
It really is. And so it's just like, do I do
Opportunity
this
costs.
or do I do this? And I'm like, PAX is every year. I've gone for like the past like 3 or 4 years, and I want to see people, and I want to say hi, and like all that stuff. But also with SGF a month later, that's very inconvenient.
Yep.
And so I don't know if I can handle both trips. Um, and again, this is like probably a once in a lifetime thing, where this guy that lives across the world is going to be a 3.5 hour drive from where I live. I just like, I got it. I got to shoot my shot. I had to do it. I had to make a choice, and I'm happy with the choice I made. I'm happy with the choice I made.
Hell yeah.
So anyway, thank you everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. It was a little bit all over the place near the end there, but we made it through. We love you all. Thank you for listening. I'm Cam. That's Kev, and we'll talk to you later.
Later.